The first time the young girl meets her grandfather, who lives in seclusion at the peak of the mountain, she excitedly wishes her grandfather, but he replies rudely and asks them to leave, making her sad. What makes her even sadder is that her aunt, prioritizing her own career, heartlessly dumps her with this weird old man and runs off without looking back. However, Alpohe is unwilling to accept this child who has suddenly appeared. He coldly shuts the door, locking Heidi out. No matter how much Heidi shouts and cries outside, he refuses to respond. Left with no choice, Heidi silently walks to the goat shed, planning to make do for the night with the little goats. That night, a storm rages outside with thunder, lightning, and pouring rain. Heidi's thin frame curls up on the cold hay, pressing tight against the warm goats, pitifully enduring the night. The next morning, Alpohe walks into the shed with a bucket, not saying a word. Hearing Heidi's timid yet polite greeting, he keeps a cold face, offering no response. He simply squats down and skillfully milks the goat. Then he ladles a scoop of goat's milk and hands it to Heidi, urging her to drink it quickly. Starving, Heidi takes the wooden ladle and drinks it all in one go. She thinks her grandfather has finally accepted her, but Alpohe suddenly speaks, saying that he will take her to the priest. The priest looks Heidi over, confirms she is healthy and easy to raise, and agrees to help Alpohe find a foster family for her. But since this will take time, he cannot give an immediate answer. Alpohe has no objection, even adding that if a suitable family is not found, she can be sent to an orphanage. They agree to meet again in 3 days. During these 3 days, Heidi must be cared for by Alpohe. Although reluctant, he is forced to agree due to public pressure, as his reputation in the village has always been poor. Back at the mountain cabin, Heidi stands at the door and timidly asks her grandfather if she has to sleep with the goats again tonight. Surprisingly, Alpohe lets her decide. Heidi glances at the nearby goat shed and then runs into the house without hesitation. However, inside there is only an old chair and a narrow single bed with no extra space. Just as she feels disappointed, she spots a small ladder in the corner. Climbing up to the loft with anticipation, she finds it spacious and covered in soft hay. She excitedly dives onto it, rolling around. Sunlight streams through the small window, dust motes dancing in the beam. It looks exactly like the secret base she has long awaited, and she asks, "Can I sleep here tonight?" Facing Heidi's inquiry, Alpohe does not speak, but to her, his silence is permission. At dinner, she gathers the courage to express her thoughts to her grandfather. Hearing this, Alpohe is slightly stunned, a trace of surprise flashing in his eyes, though he still does not answer. But hidden within that silence is a touch of emotion. The next morning, Heidi is woken from a deep sleep by the crisp sound of bells. She rushes outside impatiently. Under her grandfather's reminder, she drinks a large bowl of fresh goat milk in one breath, washes her face in the clear spring water, and opens the pen to release the mountain goats. It turns out Alpohe has made arrangements for Peter, the village goat herder, to take Heidi up the mountain to graze the goats. He even specifically packs her a piece of fine cheese and a slice of high-quality ham for lunch. Subsequently, Heidi follows Peter up to the high alpine meadows. The rolling mountains and fields of wildflowers fill her vision. She opens her arms, running barefoot like a bird freed from its cage, sprinting into the wind, leaving all her worries behind. It is as if this is the pure land her heart has longed for. At that moment, she forms an unbreakable bond with the Alps. However, Peter is used to this scenery. His eyes never leave Heidi's lunch. Taking advantage of Heidi's inattention, he secretly opens her bag and takes several bites of the cheese and ham inside. When Heidi discovers this, he frames a nearby goat. Heidi sees a flash of surprise in his eyes. She wants to question him, but just then, 2 rams nearby lock horns and crash into each other. This gives Peter a chance to dodge the question. He raises his whip to strike the goats, his actions rude and vicious. Seeing this, Heidi is heartbroken. To save the innocent goats from suffering physical pain, Heidi hurriedly stops Peter and offers him a deal he cannot refuse. She tells him that she will share her lunch with him if he stops beating the goats. Thus, the goats are saved, and a budding friendship quietly forms between the 2 children. After eating and drinking their fill, they lie side by side on the grass, mimicking the calls of marmots. After a few soft calls, a marmot is lured out of its hole, curiously responding, its cute and clumsy appearance making them giggle uncontrollably. Having fun, they simply open their arms and roll freely down the wildflower-covered slope. Although these games are extremely simple, they bring Heidi the purest joy. Just as they prepare to return, Peter suddenly turns serious. He solemnly warns Heidi never to tell Alps about the lunch because there is a rumor in the village that the weird old man once killed someone. This scares Heidi badly. Upon returning, she is too afraid to get close to her grandfather and even volunteers to sleep in the goat shed with the little goats. Her unusual behavior lets Alps guess immediately that Peter must have told her the village rumors. Facing Heidi's timid questions, Alps does not get angry or make excuses. Instead, he uses a gentle tone to teach her that some people love to gossip, but the truth requires one to feel it with their own heart. Heidi listens, looking at the openness and warmth in her grandfather's eyes. She suddenly remembers these past days, the warm goat milk he squeezed for her, the tolerance in letting her sleep in the loft, and that thoughtful lunch. These tangible, warm gestures are more real than any rumor. At that moment, the gloom in her heart vanishes instantly. She believes those baseless rumors are definitely fake. This heartwarming hug, without 1,000 words or deliberate setup, turns into solid trust, condensing into a beam of light that pierces the loneliness. The hard shell around Alps is completely melted by Heidi's innocence and kindness. The next day, when Heidi returns from herding, she finds a brand new chair at the table. She approaches slowly and sits down carefully, hoping it is a spot belonging to her. Just then, Alps walks into the room. Heidi touches the chair and gathers the courage to ask if this was prepared for her. Obviously, she gets the answer she hoped for, but she is still confused. Isn't she leaving tomorrow? Alps replies, "From now on, you are going to the mountains every day." Heidi instantly understands her grandfather's feelings. She rushes over, throws herself into his arms, hugs him tightly, and keeps saying, "Thank you," because she knows this means she is no longer an unwanted burden. She finally has a home that truly belongs to her. From then on, she goes herding with Peter every day, watching the sun rise and set, listening to the wind brush over the grassy hills. Alps prepares 3 meals for Heidi daily, watching her run freely in the wild. Life is plain but full of warmth. Soon after, Peter says he has to go to school, and winter is coming, so he cannot accompany Heidi on the mountain anymore. Watching Peter's retreating back, Heidi feels a wave of loss. In the blink of an eye, heavy snow falls on the Alps. In moments, the world turns white, quiet as a fairy tale world. But this boundless whiteness brings boundless loneliness and isolation. This sudden silence is hard for a young child to adapt to. To comfort the disappointed Heidi, Alps personally carves a wooden eagle and gives it to her. Heidi is filled with gratitude and loves the carving. But this tenderness ultimately cannot outweigh her missing Peter. Alps says nothing. He brings out a sled that has been stored away for a long time, preparing to take her down the mountain to find Peter immediately. They sit on the sled, screaming down the snowy slopes from the peak. The wind roars in their ears, and snow powder hits their faces like crushed jade. Heidi's screams, mixed with surprise, crash into clear echoes in the valley, breaking the mountain's silence and warming her long frozen heart. She suddenly understands that her grandfather's love never uses fancy words. It is hidden in this companionship through the wind and snow. After saying goodbye to her grandfather, Heidi arrives at Peter's house as she wished. Having not seen each other for a long time, they hug warmly. At the dinner table, Peter warns Heidi never to think about going to school because it is too boring. Hearing this from the side, his mother scolds him not to talk nonsense. It is only boring because he cannot read yet. Peter retorts that people in the Alps do not need to read at all. Heidi sits aside, daring not to speak, but notices Peter's grandmother is not eating, so she hands her own bread to her. However, it is not that the grandmother does not want to eat. Rather, the bread is too hard and she simply cannot chew it. In that instant, a pang of sourness rises in Heidi's heart. For the first time, she truly realizes how heartbreaking aging is. On the way back, Heidi clings to her grandfather's back, uncontrollably hugging him tighter, silently praying in her heart that her grandfather will remain healthy forever. In the blink of an eye, winter passes and spring returns. The ice melts, and the Alps shed their white coat, glowing with vigorous vitality again. Just as she thinks happy days are returning, her long-absent aunt, Dite, suddenly reappears. She first finds Alpohe, saying she wants to take Heidi to the big city to live a good life. Alpohe refuses and kicks her out in a fit of anger. But Dede does not stop there. She finds Heidi returning from herding and tricks her into coming down the mountain with a mix of coaxing and deception. When Alpohe discovers this, he chases them all the way down the mountain, but it is too late. Heidi is already on the train, speeding away. She watches the familiar Alps get farther and farther away, her heart full of reluctance and worry for her grandfather, fearing she might never see him again. Arriving in Frankfurt, Dete sells Heidi to a wealthy family, takes the money, and leaves without looking back. Poor little Heidi knows nothing of this yet. She is arranged to be a companion to the family's young lady. The young lady is named Clara, blonde and pretty with a kind heart. Unfortunately, her mother died early. Her father is away on business for years at a time, and her legs are paralyzed, leaving her unable to walk. Her personality has become withdrawn and sensitive. The wealthy man's original intention in bringing Heidi was to find a playmate of the same age for his daughter so she could have a little more laughter in her company. This meeting goes exactly as wished. Clara loves the wild mountain aura about Heidi, and they quickly start playing together. While Heidi pushes Clara to tour the rooms, she accidentally breaks a precious vase. Facing the interrogation of the housekeeper, Rottenmeier, kind Clara takes the responsibility on herself. Rottenmeier is skeptical, but dares not probe too deeply due to the young mistress's status. She simply harbors dissatisfaction toward Heidi. At the dinner table, seeing Heidi drink soup the way she drinks goat milk, she is disdainful in every way. Fortunately, no matter what Heidi does, Clara uses a kind and tolerant heart to patiently teach her the rules, accepting all her wild nature with gentleness. However, when the bread is served, Heidi finds it particularly soft. She asks the servant for an extra one and, while no one is looking, secretly stuffs it into her pocket. Rottenmeier sees this and stands up, starting to chatter endlessly to Heidi about the house rules. But before she can finish speaking, Heidi has fallen asleep in her chair. The next day, Heidi is groomed by the servants and changes into an exquisite dress. But the mischievous spirit raised in the mountains has not changed a bit. She plays little tricks, slowly bringing long-lost laughter back to this silent house. After dinner, Clara takes Heidi into a private room. Looking at her mother's portrait on the wall, she softly speaks of the past in her heart. She used to be able to run freely, but after her mother passed away, endless grief crushed her, and her legs lost the ability to move. Her father is away on business all year round and, using safety as an excuse, has the servants lock all the windows. She is like a bird trapped in a giant cage. Heidi listens quietly, her heart full of empathy, because at this moment, she too is full of longing for the wind of the Alps and her grandfather's warm smile. For this reason, she takes advantage of the nap break to secretly push Clara out the door. They go to the city's highest clock tower, wanting to climb to the top to get a glimpse of the Alps, but they end up disappointed. Upon returning, she is caught red-handed by Rottenmeier. Because of some kittens Clara bought on the way, Rottenmeier has an allergic reaction and makes a fool of herself in front of everyone, losing all dignity. In a rage, she forbids Heidi from eating and punishes her by making her face the wall. This cold treatment makes Heidi's homesickness grow even stronger. After dinner, she takes off the dress and puts back on the dirty clothes she arrived in, taking her luggage downstairs to say goodbye to Clara because her aunt once said that if she did not like it here, she could leave anytime. Heidi ignores Rottenmeier's obstruction and insists on choosing to leave. During the struggle, the soft rolls she had been carrying fall out, scattering on the ground, just like her shattered dream of returning home. Witnessing all this, Clara feels incredibly sad. She hopes Heidi gets her wish, but also fears losing this playmate. They both fall into their own pain. That night, Heidi sits quietly by the bed, gazing at the bright moon in the sky. Her thoughts involuntarily drift back to the Alps, and her longing for her grandfather surges like a tide. Even while asleep, she calls out for her grandfather incessantly. The next morning, Clara falls ill. When Heidi goes to visit her, Clara holds Heidi's hand and begs her to stay. Heidi looks at Clara's pale face and cannot say a word, only burying her heart full of sadness and struggle deep inside. After that, they return to their days of constant companionship. But while Heidi looks calm on the surface, inside she misses her grandfather every moment. Not long after, Clara's father and grandmother finally return home. They like Heidi very much upon meeting her. However, Rottenmeier cannot wait to snitch. She says Heidi is not only an uneducated wild child but has no ambition at all, and if this continues for a long time, it might affect Clara's studies. This confuses Clara's father for a moment. But Grandma Sesamon does not think so. She feels the teacher might be using the wrong method. So that night, before Heidi goes to sleep, she specifically brings a storybook illustrated with shepherds and sits by the bed to read to Heidi. The vivid descriptions make those familiar scenes emerge constantly in Heidi's mind. She listens and becomes entranced. But when reading to the exciting part, Grandma Sesamon's voice stops abruptly. Heidi is desperate to know what happens next. But Grandma tells her that if she wants to know the ending of the story, she has to work hard to read the words herself. Grandma Sesamon teaches Heidi with a gentle and firm tone that everyone understands the world differently. Do not be led by others' words. Only by seeing, listening, and feeling for yourself can you live out your true self. Heidi is a smart child and naturally understands the meaning behind Grandma Sesamon's words. From then on, she begins to study seriously. Sure enough, in less than a week, she skillfully masters spelling and reading. Everyone is happy for her. Clara is overjoyed, thinking Heidi can now stay with her forever. But among those present, only Grandma Sesamon notices the hidden melancholy in Heidi's fleeting, lonely gaze. So, she finds an opportunity to privately voice her concerns to Clara's father. But Mr. Sesamon dismisses it. He only feels that Heidi has everything she needs here: food, clothing, everything. And most importantly, he has never seen Clara this happy. Being hit with the truth, Grandma Sesamon wants to argue, but ultimately has nothing to say. One night soon after, Mr. Sesamon is playing chess with a doctor friend when they suddenly hear a noise outside. The two grab handy items and follow the sound, only to find it is Heidi standing outside the door. It turns out that due to intense homesickness, she has developed severe sleepwalking. Every night she unconsciously goes outside the main gate, staring in the direction of the Alps. Mr. Sesamon is about to step forward to wake Heidi, but the doctor hurriedly reminds him never to startle a sleepwalker. Subsequently, they follow Heidi back to her room. Mr. Sesamon tries to get a blanket for her but accidentally knocks the bread from the wardrobe all over the floor. The sudden noise wakes Heidi from her dream. The doctor asks if she feels uncomfortable anywhere. Heidi clutches her chest and says she misses her grandfather and that her heart hurts from missing him. The doctor realizes then that Heidi has become sick from homesickness. So, he solemnly advises Mr. Sesamon that he must send her back to the Alps as soon as possible. Otherwise, the consequences will be severe. Mr. Sesamon falls into a dilemma. He cannot bear for Clara to fall into loneliness again, but he also cannot bear to see the innocent Heidi tortured by homesickness. After some struggle, he finally decides to send Heidi home. But this decision is something Clara cannot accept no matter what. During the argument, Heidi suddenly appears. Clara, in a fit of rage, shouts at her to leave immediately. Heidi stands frozen at a loss, not knowing what happened. It is not until she is told she can return to the Alps that she reveals undisguised joy. At the same time, she cannot bear to see Clara sad about this. She wants to apologize to Clara, but Clara refuses to see her or speak to her. This leaves Heidi with mixed feelings, not knowing whether to be happy or sad. At the moment of parting, she takes out the wooden eagle her grandfather gave her and solemnly hands it to Mr. Sesamon, softly telling him she hopes to be friends with Clara forever. Mr. Sesamon looks at Heidi's innocent face. Feeling warmth in his heart, he prepares a full suitcase of fresh, soft rolls for her and has the male butler escort her on the train home. Upon arriving in the Alps, Heidi successfully delivers the fresh, soft rolls to Peter's grandmother and brings Peter his favorite ham. Then she runs all the way to the mountaintop, stripping off the dress that binds her body and mind, running desperately toward the grandfather she has missed day and night. They hug tightly, and the longing accumulated for so long melts away in that moment. Back by her grandfather's side, Heidi is like a bird breaking free from its cage, regaining freedom and joy. Every morning she drinks a bowl of hot, fresh goat milk, then washes the sleepiness from her face with sweet spring water. Then, together with Peter, she lies on the wildflower-covered hillside, starting a day of carefree herding life, and Peter still cannot change his gluttonous habit, always thinking about Heidi's lunch. Time flies, and in the blink of an eye, the biting winter descends again. Heidi has reached the age to go to school. To let her study with peace of mind, Alps specifically renovates the old house down the mountain that has been idle for a long time. The teacher asks the students what they want to be when they grow up. Others want to be farmers in the Alps. Only Heidi says she wants to be a writer. This makes the whole class burst into laughter. But this does not shake Heidi's determination to write. She writes all the beauty of the Alps into letters and sends them to Clara far away. Between the lines, she not only reveals deep longing for her, but also sincerely invites her to visit the Alps. Upon seeing the letters, Clara feels deeply ashamed of her selfishness back then. She longs to apologize to Heidi in person, so Grandma Sesamon takes her to the Alps. Heidi, herding on the hillside, sees them from afar. She leaves Peter behind and flies over like a hummingbird, hugging Clara in the wheelchair. They embrace tightly. The accumulated longing quietly dissipates in the mountain breeze. Clara, new to the wooden cabin, still carries the reserve of a noble family. Facing fresh goat milk in a rough clay bowl, she does not know where to start. Heidi smiles and lifts her own bowl, demonstrating how to drink goat milk in big gulps, finally sticking out her tongue to lick the milky residue from the bottom of the bowl. Then she hands over a piece of cheese smelling of wheat, signaling Clara to eat with her hands. Here, there are no exquisite plates, no rigid and tedious table manners, only the simplest food and the most spontaneous joy. Clara suddenly truly feels that life without the constraints of money is so free and carefree. One morning, Heidi and Clara are playing happily outside. This scene happens to be seen by Peter, who has come to herd the sheep. Jealousy rises in his heart, and he secretly pushes Clara's wheelchair down the slope. When Heidi prepares to take Clara up the mountain to herd, she finds the wheelchair is nowhere to be found. Alps looks up, sees Peter on the mountain, and instantly understands everything. With no other choice, he has to carry Clara up to the peak on his back. After settling her down, he finds Peter hiding behind a rock and gives him a chance to redeem himself, ordering him to look after the two girls, or else he will pay the price. Meanwhile, Heidi can no longer hold back. She skips off to pick wild berries. Clara's gaze follows her brisk figure until it completely disappears into the flowers. Looking up, the spring Alps unfold slowly before her eyes like a scroll painting, carrying the magical power of nature, quietly smoothing the trauma in her heart. Just then, a butterfly lands on her foot. She wants to reach out and catch it, but the butterfly flies away. Clara subconsciously stands up to chase it, and a miracle happens at this very moment. Unexpectedly, Clara actually stands up. Heidi runs over excitedly, carefully supporting Clara's slightly swaying body. Peter, hiding behind the rock, also runs over to help. They protect Clara on the left and right, accompanying her as she slowly practices on the grass. Before long, Clara is able to let go of their support and walk freely on this magical grass. At this time, far down the mountain, Mr. Sesamon has dropped his work and is rushing to the Alps. He expresses strong dissatisfaction that his mother brought his daughter here without permission. But the moment Clara appears, he knows he was completely wrong. Before parting, Grandma Sesamon gives Heidi a special gift. At first, Heidi thinks it is a book. But upon opening it, she finds it is completely blank inside. Just as Heidi is confused, Grandma Sesamon takes out a pen and tells her the content of the book needs to be written by herself. But Heidi looks a bit disappointed because her dream of writing was once mocked by her classmates. Grandma Sesamon tells Heidi, "If there is one thing that makes you happy, then go do it. No need to pay attention to others' gossip." This warm speech is like a gentle spring breeze blowing away the haze lingering in Heidi's heart and awakening the confidence sealed deep in her soul. After saying goodbye to Clara, Heidi returns to the same mountain life as before. The only difference is that her heart quietly holds a lasting longing and a faint mark of growth. She picks up the pen, writing the vastness and magnificence of the Alps into her book in detail. She also lies on the grass with Peter, watching eagles spread their wings and cut through the clear sky. Then she suddenly stands up, opens her arms, and runs, striding into the wind like an eagle soaring, turning the mountains and rivers under her pen and the longing in her heart into a yearning for the vast world. It turns out freedom is never a distant dream, but the wind beneath your feet, the poem under your pen, and every step taken toward the distance. And with that, the movie comes to an end. Thanks for watching. This is Plotcore, where movies hit harder. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more epic recaps every week.